Hi everybody, Dave Bloxham with you once again from Beyond Guitars. Glad to have you at the workshop, and we're still talking about banjos. I actually do guitar work now and then, but banjos once again it is. You know, I just repaired the broken headstock and overlay on my own banjo, my Gibson clone. I guess you could really call it a Gibson clone because it even has a Gibson overlay on it, but it is actually a Gold Star banjo. And it came out really nice. But, you know, while I was at it, I thought I might do some more work on that banjo. And I decided to kind of spruce it up a little bit. You know, as banjo heads go, most of them are of the top frosted type, which this is a traditional Remo banjo head. It's got the frosting on the top surface, and the back is smooth. As you can see, it's just a kind of a shiny, there we go, a nice shine. But as we play and they get older, they get soiled, and most of all, the frosting begins to wear off where the fingers ride. And there's kind of a line usually on most banjo players' banjos after a while. You know, I never really liked that look, you know, the worn look. And I've always looked for solutions for that. And over the years, I have tried different things like coating a banjo head when the coating is worn off, but I've never found a satisfactory coating. Or technique, perhaps. Maybe the technique will be what I need. But my banjo head got worn like that. So I'll show you how to clean a banjo head. That's pretty simple. And then I will get into trying a new product here. This is a chalked paint, which isn't something I would have found when I was 12 years old when I started doing this back in the 70s. But yeah, I found it interesting. You know, it is kind of a chalked finish on a banjo head. So I thought, I wonder how compatible that is, and perhaps they've improved the formula so they stick better. We'll see. So experimentation today, that's what this is about. So we're going to try and succeed at this and see if I can't avoid replacing these expensive banjo heads. This is an old head I took off a banjo a while back. This one isn't frosted at all, but it's white. A lot of non-frosted heads are absolutely clear. You can see right through them and see into the banjo, but this one is just a white mylar and it's got no coating on it. This is an old head though, and I've been using this to collect sawdust. And I showed you just a minute ago the top frosted head, which again is the most common and the most traditional. And they're expensive, you know, they're just getting expensive, $25, $35 for one of those. This looks similar, but you'll notice that the top, if I can get it to shine there, yeah, there we go. The top is not frosted, but the back is. So really it should give you a very similar tone since it has the same frosting as the top frosted head. It's just on the other side, so it can't wear out. Maybe this will work. So let's try it. I want to clean that head and spray it with this stuff, and we'll see what happens right after this. Now often when a banjo head is just dirty like this, or I'm cleaning up a banjo, I have used virtually every household cleaner on these, and none of them deteriorate it. I've used Fantastic, I've used 409, I've used, this is a newer one, a Myers, Mrs. Myers, and that's what I'm going to do today. It just doesn't seem to cause a problem. And I just spray it on here, let it work a little bit like you would in the house. And you can do this with the head on the banjo. And just start scrubbing the dirt. I've tried everything there is to try to get this frosting off. When I was a kid, I wanted a clear banjo head, but didn't want to buy one, and I had an old frosted head, of course, so I was just going to strip it. And I tried everything on this. I used alcohol, and I used lacquer thinner, and I used I think something like oven cleaner, and I just could not get anything to take these off. So that's a lot cleaner, and it does clean up pretty nicely with that. But of course, we've got this worn area, and that occurs when we're playing and fingers are moving up and down. You can see I like to rest down here and play in the low position. So the label inside this banjo represents the first two digits are the year it was made, and this one was obviously made in 1977. And so the first 76, 7, 8, and 9, I believe, are the Sumi years. Exactly when it went to Tokai, I'm not sure, but this is a Sumi banjo. I am positive of that. If it's a Sumi banjo, it will have an armrest like this unless it's been changed, and I've changed a few of them myself. But the Sumi banjos have, the armrest does not have a bolt here. You'll see there's no fastening bolt for the armrest, because the way they made these is that the armrest is brazed to two of these hooks. And if you want to replace this with a standard armrest, you're going to have to replace these two head hooks. There you go. So that will remove the armrest. And again, this is kind of the signature of an early Sumi-made Gold Star, is this armrest. You don't see this on either the Tokai banjos or the modern Chinese-made banjos. In fact, I've never seen any other banjo that I've ever taken apart that has these brazed hooks. But that is a signature, and you know, I guess this banjo is going to lose the signature because I'm taking it off. And there's my pot assembly. So I'm just going to shake the can up here. Now, one thing you can do, you know, this aluminum rim is actually part of the look, and you'll see that on the side of the banjo. If you like, you can tape that off. And I'm going to go ahead and do that so the aluminum remains aluminum color along the side. I'll just bring the tape up over the side, and that'll protect the aluminum rim on the top. I'm going to save you a little bit of the spring here. Don't need to show it all to you. It's a little boring, I know, I've heard it. It's actually more fun to do than it is to watch, which really goes for a lot of things, actually. But I gave it about 3 coats and time to dry, and I gave it the seal coat at the end to give it a little more protection. But you can see just one coat that I've got here really covers well. You can see the logo through the back side, but not from the top. So I'm going to reassemble this banjo, and we're going to get it playing again. So what I want to do is put the seam of the rim right where the neck goes. The neck is going to go through, the stud goes through that hole, and that puts the Remo right at the bottom where it was. So I want to put it on exactly the same way that I had it, and this will go right there. So this armrest, which I need to buff up a little bit, but it's brand new and quite shiny and nice. It's going to go on right here, and it goes on just as they did on the Gibson I restored recently. This little plate has to be held in by popsicle sticks, and that's how I found the easiest way to do it, because there's really no way to hold this little thing under the brackets and leave it there and try and screw in your armrest. It just floats around like this and falls out. So what I need is a couple of popsicle sticks. I've got a couple of skewers here. Actually, it's one skewer I broke in half, but that will work too. Just a little stick is what you need. And my armrest, I want it to go right here. That means that this space I could see is where this little bracket will line up right there. So that's where I want the armrest. So I'm off by 1 here. The little block has to be held in. So the skewers are going to do that for me. The tone is toned down just a little bit, but it could always be put on thinner. In fact, I have another banjo head that could use a little sprucing up, but you can see the worn areas are completely hidden on this. If you look super close, you can see the texture where the underlying frosting is worn off. But all in all, for stage and performing and practicing in front of people, is pretty darn good. I think it's a pretty neat idea, at least. Now, I don't know how well it holds up, but that is yet to be proven. This whole thing is an experiment after all. Pretty nice. It's not terribly rough, but it still has texture to it. Of course, it's still got the frosting under most of it. There's just no frosting in the finger areas where it was worn off. Well, it's been several days now, and the paint has had time to cure. And I like the tone of the banjo still. It sounds very good, and it's got plenty of volume. I'm going to show you a close-up here of me playing, and it's only when I started playing did I find there was a problem with this. So it's kind of a fail, actually. Okay, and now comes the demonstration. Since I've kind of warmed up the banjo, make it nice and quiet in here. Can you hear that? This banjo head softens, this paint, this stuff, this chalked finish here, not so great. It softens up, and it's even had time to cure, but it still remains tacky. Now, it doesn't seem tacky where I don't place my fingers, but where I do, it's even begun coming off where my fingers stick to it, and it's getting soiled really quickly, and it just is not passing the player test. So let's try something different. Well, at this point, I'd kind of like to save this banjo head if I could. I mean, my first attempt here has obviously failed, so I think I want to try and remove the paint so I can use something else. I have another idea, but how can I get this stuff off of here? That's the question. Now, that little area there where the fingers wore it off, of course, was smooth mylar. It didn't have the texture on it, and I've never been able to really remove the factory texture from a banjo head, so those are the areas that will be the most problematic. And I've tried chemicals, as I've said, so I'm trying heat this time. I've got the heat gun on it, but I do know that it's made of plastic. It's mylar, so we'll see how that goes. Using the scraper, I can get some of it off, but it's not going easy. So I just keep the heat on, thinking that, you know, as heat does, paint peels off. But, you know, I'm trying to keep the temperature down, but I'll just keep at it until something happens. Now, I'm able to get the paint off here. You can see the texture under it, the original frosting, but it's only in a very small area. It doesn't loosen easily at all, and I'm thinking, well, maybe that's because the banjo head is so thin. It's got all this cool air under it. And maybe if I can insulate the inside of the banjo head or warm it up in there, then I'll be able to warm up the surface and the paint will come right off like magic, right? Well, not so fast. You know, now I remove the tailpiece and the strings to get better access to it. But I'll tell you, I'm going to save you all this time because, and I spent about an hour on this, honestly, about an hour with the heat gun. And here's what I got. Well, you can see I pretty much melted that. I didn't melt holes in it, but it is just completely warped and ruined. And I got some of the coating off, but at what cost? You know, I mean, it's certainly
not usable at this point. So I have the bright idea, maybe I can shrink it back. But that didn't work either.
All right, well, a couple of failures here. One is that I don't have the camera aimed quite right, but I'll just duck a little bit here while I talk. You know that banjo head I just worked on? Two failures for that. The finish that I used here, the Rust-Oleum chalked finish, it would get real sticky, and I showed you that. So then I decided to remove it. I applied some heat with a heat gun and I melted the head. So I didn't melt it through, but it's completely warped and ruined. So this one is out. And what I have here, of course, I showed you this before. This is the white Mylar head. It has no coating at all. So all of it will be fresh Mylar to spray the coating on. And I went into the Banjo Hangout, searching around the web for other people's ideas, and somebody suggested another product to spray on a banjo head, and that is this Kills product. This is a household or home type primer for drywall, and it's supposed to kill bacteria, mold, and stuff like that on your walls before you paint. So I've used this product before, but never for a banjo, so I'm going to try that. You know, someone else mentioned that, I think it was Ludwig Drum Company, and they make drum heads and banjo heads, really the same thing. They used to market a spray that was to recoat a head, but now they just tell you to buy a new head, of course. So, yeah, that's not available anymore. I don't know what that was like. Never tried it. But we're going to try, this is what I'm going to do here. I'm going to try the Kills, because somebody suggested it, on this Mylar head that has no frosting at all. And I already have used 320 sandpaper on it to roughen it up a little bit and take the gloss off. You see, it's not really shiny anymore. If that works out well, if that looks promising enough, I might try it on my other banjo, which is this Rich and Taylor banjo here, and the banjo head on that is getting worn. So, you know, maybe I'll take that off and spray it with Kills. If this experiment works out, I'll probably graduate onto a player banjo and see how that works out. You know, when you adjust an old head, it's different than the new head. And I went through a big procedure when I put the new head on that old Gibson banjo. And you have to modify that procedure because it just stops you short. But it tightens up right away because there's really no stretch left in the old head. It's already stretched out. So you set them up a lot quicker, actually. been several days now, and I've been playing this banjo as often as I can. And I have a verdict on this coating, the Kills. That was a good tip. I found that off of the Banjo Hangout in one of the forums. One day somebody said, just spray some Kills on it and be over with it, or be done with it or something. But yeah, I mean, I hadn't heard that, so I'd been trying other things, but finally stumbled along upon that stuff. And I wouldn't have expected a primer to be a good finished product, but in this case it appears to be, and it's not staining up a lot, and I've been playing it a lot, so I see a little bit of discoloration, which is completely normal. I'd see that on any Remo banjo head too. So aesthetically, you can see it's a great success, and I'm really happy with it. So I've kind of answered that question, although it's all been an experiment for me up to this point. I really didn't ever find a good way to kind of spruce up my banjo heads without just replacing them. And as they get more expensive, you know, kind of nice to have at least an alternative. I suppose you could spray these on the banjo if you're taping it off really well and you don't want to take the whole banjo apart like that. It is a possibility. But the last question is, did it affect the sound? And the answer to me, that's how flat top sounds. You can hear how they sound different, don't they? Flat top, arch top. But I think they affect, you know, this stuff affects the tone a little bit. It might reduce the volume a little. It's not really noticeable, you know, to be honest. I can't really hear the difference, but, you know, in theory it has to. It has to do something to the tone because you're affecting the surface that projects the sound. You know, the banjo head is what's moving the air. It's the big surface, it's the big diaphragm, the speaker cone, if you will, of the banjo that's pushing air back and forth and sending these sound waves out. Without that banjo head, it wouldn't sound like, you couldn't hear it. It'd be just totally quiet. But the strings themselves don't make enough sound. They don't move the air. They have no, you know, real surface area. And it's those pulses of air that you hear that make it sound so loud. So but I still enjoy it. It sounds good to me. Liking it. So yeah, probably affects the tone, but not much. Not much. Anyway, that's about it. I think we're done here, but like and subscribe if you would, and be sure to join us next time. I've got something weird coming up. It's fixing kind of an unusual problem I haven't ever heard of before. It's a rattling truss rod. It's sitting inside the neck, you know, and it's kind of making noise in a Gibson banjo neck that I have. It's kind of a long story how that came to be, but I will explain it all in the upcoming. I'll try and get that out sooner than later, but be sure to join us next time here at Beyond Guitars.